Hi, welcome to episode 27 of C3 Crystals, Cauldrons, and Cocktails. I'm River.
And I'm Wren.
And today we're going to talk about witch hats.
Yes.
First, what cocktail are we drinking?
We are drinking the poison apple. Mwahahaha.
Mwahahaha.
This should have been on the episode where we covered Snow White.
Good point. Yeah.
Witch, yeah.
It's actually a bourbon drink, which I'm not a big fan of bourbon, but we do need to, for our cocktail book, we're trying to include all the different liquors.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to come up with one, and I'm in the fall mood right now because it's rainy and cold today.
Mm-hmm.
And so this one is a heated drink, which is wonderful. So it's got bourbon and apple cider and honey and cinnamon. And it's just heated. You don't boil it, but you bring it to a nice warm simmer and you drink it. So it's actually very comforting. And the more you drink, the better you like bourbon. So that works too.
It's nice and toasty.
It is. So start us off with witch hats.
Yes. So again, the first definition of a witch hat is
It's a witch hat.
It's a witch hat. Yeah. A witch hat is a style of hat worn by witches in popular culture, depictions and characterized by like conical, like crown, like a cone, if I'm saying that right.
That's
and
right.
a wide brim.
And the wide brim. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The story of the witch hat is actually complicated. It's not, I expected to, look up origins of the witch hat and it was going to say, oh, it's this and this. That is not at all the story of the witch hat. So it's very interesting. A lot of it has to do with prejudice and persecution more than it does with magic and mystical stuff. So very interesting.
It was very interesting. To interject a little bit. This is not what I was expecting when when we first discussed like, oh, let's do witches hats, since we've done like all the basically the trademarks of like stereotypes of witch and the wand. And so I thought we were going to be having more light and fluffy discussion on the witch's hat and like what we could use it for today, which we do get into a little bit about that. But most of it is like the deep, dark history.
It's not a happy history.
No, not at all.
Kind of interesting. So actually, the very first known witch's outfit, the witch's hat is a fairly, with it being connotated to witches, is fairly recent. Mm-hmm. The actual first witch outfit was nudity.
Yeah.
No clothes at all. And that was depicted in all kinds of paintings and all of that. And over time, the outfit evolved due to political things. Hollywood, which we'll get into, had a huge impact on how we all see witches now.
Well, I mean, you always hear about like the witches or just witches in general dancing naked under the moon or riding brooms naked and jumping off their houses naked. And so that's how I imagine a lot of it. And then you get into like the oily baby fat in your butt cheeks type thing on the broom. So,
naked with the witch hat would work. You don't have any baby fat.
True. No, yes. But technically, does the hat actually help you fly, or do you need the broom with the baby fat?
I think you got to have the broom with the baby fat. But I think I love witch hats, honestly. And we'll get into that later too. But there are all kinds of theories on the origins of the witch's hat. And, a lot of those, like so many stories about the witch, involve female power and fear of females. And I'm not trying to leave out our brothers who are out there who are also witches, because I am one of those that does believe that boys can be witches too. I mean, that's not it. It's a magic thing, not a sex thing.
Yeah,
not a gender thing.
Yeah, I looked at our demographics of like like what percentage of who listens to us, and I know not everybody identifies as male, female, but the way that the chart is set up, it's male, female. So based on what I have, it is a good 25% male and the rest female, which I thought was really cool because I really felt like we were reaching more female, but I really enjoyed that.
I mean, there is so many stereotypes about a witch, a woman. That is not the way it is. There are so many male witches out there too.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But a lot of the connotations that go with the witch hat does revolve around women and fear of women and the power of women. So the first one that I came across was in ancient Egypt. So between 2,000 and 4,000 years ago, ancient Egypts wore tall cone-shaped hats, which I actually didn't know that. That's not how I ever have, thought of Egyptians.
Yeah.
But it was a thing. And these cone-headed Egyptians show up on everything from ancient murals to reliefs to coffins. Archaeologists first believed that the cone-shaped hats were only worn by the dead, but they actually have seen them. They found of not just the dead being buried with them.
Yeah. Another theory on that is that they filled the hats with herbs and perfumes, and that the Egyptians went about their day like to perfume the body odor, like their body odor.
Oh, that makes total sense because back then, well, I don't really know Egyptian history, but I know certainly European and medieval history. They didn't, they took a bath once a month, whether they needed it or not, that kind of thing.
Well, what interests me is like, did our human bodies, I mean, I know that we secrete, well, that's not the right word.
We stink.
Yeah, we stink naturally. But the reason why we stink so bad, like when we don't, like, I guess, apply deodorant is because the deodorant clogs our pores and masks everything. But if you go without deodorant, you use natural remedies, you can actually get rid of your, like, that type of body odor, like the oniony type nasty body odor.
Diet has a lot to do with what you smell like too. True. Yeah.
But I feel like back then, if it were like a clean, natural world, I feel like people wouldn't stink as bad.
Oh God, I bet they stink.
I don't know.
I bet they stank.
Well, I'm just thinking like, I don't know.
But they were used to it. It was normal for them.
Yeah. And how did we, I don't know. Different discussion.
I do feel like that would be a really smart thing to do, is to fill your hat with herbs and things that do smell good, because, they didn't wash their hair all the time. There was, you couldn't just step into a shower like we have. They would think our showers today were magic.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and they are glorious. I love baths and showers, and, they would just think that was magic. Another theory is that the cone shape served a similar purpose to the shape of the pyramids.
Oh, I could see that.
Yeah. From Egypt. The pointing to the heavens, the cone of power type thing. There was the sun god Aten, Aten, Aten. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. And the cone hat is similar in appearance to that sun god's pyramid. The rays of the sun beaming down from above, it came down in a triangle type shape.
Oh, yeah, I could see that. See, and I'm at university right now, right? At a university studying. And one of my classes that I'm taking right now is a lighting class, which is very interesting because we talk about the use of light and how like light is projected in a space. And so most of the light that is projected is in a cone shape. And that's what, like, we're learning how to calculate, like how to, I guess, calculate how much light you get in each step of the cone. So you know how to light something. And like, so if it were like tall,
if it's really close to the top of the cone, is it brighter?
Yeah. It's more dense. It's not necessarily brighter because there are different levels to how light works, but it's definitely more dense in that. Like,
then as you go all the way to the base, it's
more dispersed.
Muted, dispersed. That's a great word.
Yeah,
I like that word.
Like the terms that we use are like more. It's called texture and like, I don't know. It's
I never thought of light being a texture. That is fascinating.
Well, it's interesting. My professor says he hates that term. And if we can come up with a better term for what the term actually is for texture, we would get an automatic A in the class. But
oh, hey, we can make up a word.
I know.
Come on, y'all, send us, respond to us and, get her an A in her class.
I know. It just makes sense when you're learning it. I don't know how to describe it to you, but when you look at a picture and you're like, this is kind of what texture of light is, you're like, oh, that definitely matches,
But
so I don't,
texture, that's such a
it's
weird word.
It is, but that is true. The light, not necessarily the sun usually, but light in like artificial light and how we direct light usually goes towards cone shapes.
I guess so, except for the sun.
Yeah, the sun.
It's like it's dispersed. Well, I mean, I guess it's a cone at the sun, but Earth is not at the sun.
Yeah, it goes from one point to the other. So we're basically, Earth is in the cone.
Yeah, we're in the pyramid shape. We're just not
in the cone. You just can't see it on Earth as a cone shape because we are literally in the middle of the cone as it goes out.
Gotten way off course now. But
we're still talking about cones.
That's true. Pyramids. Yes, you're right.
Yeah. So
go ahead.
So China has some theories and whatnot. So one of the earliest theories is the mummified remains of the witches of, I want to say, Subeshi.
I think that's right. I've heard of that. Yeah.
Okay. Subeshi, who wear very tall, pointed black hats that resemble like the iconic headgear of the sisters in the medieval Europe shibeshi that date back between the 4th and 2nd century BCE, before Common Era, if we get confused again.
Yeah, we had that issue before.
Yeah, and it's located at a high like gorge just to the east of the important city of Turfan to try to get you guys to know.
This is so fascinating to me. And, I think I've discovered that I use this word. I was listening to some of our episodes and I'm like, I use fascinating all the time. Apparently I am a fascinated person. That we're going to have to make like merch that says fascinating on it. I feel
fascinated.
But they called them witches. These witches, they called them witches, the Subeshi women that wore the black hats all the way back to the 4th and 2nd centuries BCE. Is that a term that we apply now looking back at, that we're applying to history, or did they call them witches back then too?
Maybe. I don't know, because when I'm also in a lot of history classes and courses where we discuss art from past.
Sometimes I really miss college.
And I mean, no, I don't miss it. Right. I hate it.
It's so fun. That's so fascinating, as I was saying.
But we're learning about antiquity. And so the time that I'm learning about has nothing to do with what we're talking about right now, but we call things like monuments that are left behind. We take them and we give them a name, but that's not necessarily what they were called back then.
So they probably weren't called witches back then.
Probably not, unless if they found it somewhere in like text or there's references to it somewhere in some type of art from this time. I'm not sure. I would have to see if there's anything connected that way, because like that's like art is really important. Like giveaways of what was going on in those times. So if it's in the art.
Yeah, I was just wondering, because you called them witches, and I was just wondering, is that something that we of our age called them, or was that something that they actually called themselves back then?
I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Europe is a whole kettle of fish. What? There's some kind. Okay, so we have been experimenting with this bourbon stuff. So right now the bourbon tastes really good, and I don't even like bourbon. So please forgive me.
Where did you get kettle of fish?
That it's a idiom.
I'm terrible at these idioms.
You are terrible at idioms. You're not wrong.
I am
a whole
so
different
bad.
kettle of fish. Where did that come from? I'll have to look that up and get back to you all. But let's not get too far off track.
Yeah. So Europe.
Europe. This is where the prejudice comes in.
Yeah.
There is a lot of prejudice from our history, and it's terrible. But okay, so during the Middle Ages, pointed hats were associated with the Jewish religion and unfortunately Satan. Now, how you relate those two makes no sense to me. They are not related.
Yeah.
But there was the participation of the Kabbalah rituals had people believing that Jews held magical powers, which, okay, that's fine. But then they immediately went from that to saying, oh, they're dealing with the devil, which is not the same thing.
Yeah.
In the 1200s, the Jews in Hungary were required, they had to wear the specific style of hat to signify their religion. It was called the Juden hat or Juden hat. I don't know. I think the J's in the Yiddish language, I think it's a Y sound. Juden hat, maybe. It was also called a horned skull cap.
Oh.
And it actually became the target because, okay, so they were forced to wear it. And then lo and behold, it became the target of anti-Semitism. So during that time, right around that same time, the European witch hunts started to be on the rise. And so the powers that be in Hungary made all of those accused of preaching magic wear those hats as a form of punishment.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Because in the medieval period, it is believed that the clergy and devout practitioners of the faith despised the pointed hat because it remained it reminded them of like the horns of the devil.
I can see that. I can see that.
Yeah.
So really it comes down to oatmeal. Oh, that's a horrible thing to say. It comes down to the Quakers. I always associate Quaker oatmeal with the Quakers.
What? Oatmeal?
Yeah. You never ate the Quaker oats?
I mean, yes, but the Quakers don't remind me of. When I think of Quakers,
I love Quaker oats.
No, when I think of Quakers, I think of, which is also awful. I get them not confused because that's whoa. I don't get them confused. It's just the terms that they sound the same, like the Quakers and then the Flappers in the 1920s. Flappers. They both end in ER, and so in like Quake
ERS, they are not anything alike.
No, not at all. But that's what I think of, and then my head's like, nope, you gotta turn around and not think about that. Okay,
that is so funny. Well, the Quakers in the mid 16 to 1800s, for some reason, the pointed hat became strongly associated with them, and it wasn't necessarily, well, I mean, they did wear them in some, okay, I'll get into it. So the Puritans in America believed that the Quakers were magic practitioners who danced with the devil during the nighttime hours, and their hats, which were black, and they did have wide brims, were part of that controversy. Now, the Quakers had these really radical ideals that women were equal, super radical, right? And that God was experienced directly. A lot of witches agree with this, the sentiment that religion and spirituality is experienced directly. They also thought that people weren't inherently sinful. So all of those things were way, way against what the regular religions, Christianity, I guess, at that time. So they got all this kind of attention, and they got this pushback. They were seen as evil and heretics and actually extremely horny. They associated these Quakers as being, these sexual deviants of some kind. So about the same time that the Quakers were gaining publicity, they were adopting their own fashions. They didn't want to be tied down to the normal, fuddy-duddy European people. And so they had their own distinct looks, which had come about with this conical hat with the large rims, the brim of the hat, which is like a witch's hat. And so the prejudice against Quakers, especially Quaker women, because they were allowed to speak in church, they were considered equals. So, they were allowed to give their beliefs and speak as if they were normal people, because hello, we are. But because of that, the prejudice against Quakers grew. It was widespread in England, and it coincided with the witch not just becoming the focus of prosecution and persecutions in the 17th century, but also with the witch becoming this popular figure. May have been the time that they were, remember, on the broomsticks jumping and making the crops grow.
Yeah.
As we talked about.
Yeah. Yeah, we did.
Yeah. Just fascinating. So a lot of connotations of the witch are prejudicial. It's fascinating. There's also a theory in medieval England that they forced people who they thought of as witches to don these crowns that were shaped like church steeples.
Oh.
Which you look at a church steeple and a lot of it is a cone.
Yeah.
And supposedly the caps were meant to draw down God's wrath or God's grace as a last-ditch effort to save these, heretics, whatever.
That's interesting, because another, I guess, a Wren fact.
A Wren fact. Woohoo!
Because a lot of people, based on what I'm learning in my history courses on art and what is depicted in like visual context of people always wear and build things higher so that they are elevated,
closer to God.
Yeah, closer to God. And this one seems a little kind of backwards, kind of.
Yeah,
Wait,
I mean,
that's
and
weird.
all of these theories are highly controversial. Nobody knows.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm throwing all these theories out there, but they could be totally wrong.
Yeah.
Which brings me to my next one that we talked about in our very first episode. It's so fun to go back to our very first episode.
Feels like forever ago.
the alewives, if you remember, the women who brewed beer, they ended up with the reputation of becoming witches as well. And they were suspected of being herbalists. They were associated with magic. And they wore these cone-shaped hats. And part of the reason was to gain attention. You could look and see, oh, that person has beer. I'm going to go over there and get a beer. I mean, for marketing purposes, an alewife had that headgear. And then, as we talked about, the men decided that they wanted to get these women who are probably better brewers than they were out of the beer market. And so they accused them of being witches. Basically any woman who defied those patriarchal norms of the 1700s and 1800s was considered, oh, she's got to be a Satan worshiper. She's a witch. She's a sorceress. And since these women that were alewives worked in this male dominated profession, they received this major shade from these guys that wanted to take over. I mean, it was a marketing thing. It was all about money.
Yeah.
It wasn't about belief systems and all of that. A lot of things really do in history come down to money. And as we said, it's just simply those male brewers trying to get rid of the competition. As a side note, we have pointed hats, but we also have pointed shoes. The pointed shoes that are connotated with the witch. Like think about movies and things.
Like kind of like the twirl in the
the little curled toes.
Yeah.
So I came across this fun little thing. I guess a river fact. We often associate this shoe type with those who play tricks like jesters. Think in your mind about how we view jesters. They have these little curled shoes
with like the bell at the end
on them. Yeah. Exactly. And Santa's elves, right? Yeah. So, but from the 14th to 16th centuries, pointy shoes were actually quite popular fashion wise. And this went on for a while before they became controversial. The church began to associate them with sex and sin.
Ugh.
I guess maybe because of their phallic shape, which you got to think the cone of the hat is also a phallic type shape. But they also prevented people from kneeling properly to pray. I mean, you got to think of these little shoes on your feet and you're trying to get down on your knees to pray. And so the church didn't like them. They actually called them Satan's claws, those pointed shoes. I know, right?
So annoying. Like, what?
I know.
How? Ugh.
I know, right?
Can we not have anything?
But how did witches get connotated with these pointed shoes?
I don't know.
Could be due to that tie to Satan and the fact that women, of course, wore them. It wasn't men that wore them. It was women. And also at the same time, witches had a reputation for loving shoes. Okay. Ooh. If that's the definition of a witch, I think 99% of the women in this world are witches because I have not ever met a woman who really doesn't like shoes.
I love shoes. I was actually right before we got on here. Like I have a shopping problem. I can't buy any of it. I have no money, but
thank God your husband loves you.
Yeah, I know. I have about let's say 50 items in the cart of where I'm shopping, and about half of it is shoes.
That is hilarious. I can't buy shoes that way. My feet are super narrow and super big, so I can never buy a shoe on. I have to actually go and try them on. That's no fun.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing about this site that I use is you can always return it. So if I order,
but I never get around to doing that, and so which is what a lot of these retailers count on.
Yeah,
I don't have time, so once I buy it, it's mine. I'm never going to return it. I wish I was able to do, because you're very good at that. I'm not very good at that.
I am. I need my money back.
Did you know that people actually used to hide or conceal shoes in their houses as a way to protect themselves against evil? So somehow these shoes got this reputation of being associated with evil and sex and whatnot. Isn't that bizarre?
They would hide the curly-toed shoes or just any shoe?
It doesn't say,
because if that's
I love
the case,
the pointy toed shoe. You know me.
Yeah.
I like to wear the high heel, the pumps with the pointy toes.
Yeah.
If
that's the case, and if shoes protect your home, I have a whole ton of shoes. I'm good. I don't need anything.
That's what we need to tell our husbands is, hey, this is for your own protection. I have to buy these shoes for your own protection.
I have to. Like shoes galore. Like we have to. I'm going to have a mountain of shoes in my closet.
I already have a mountain of shoes in my closet.
Me too.
To me, do you remember those, I guess it's medieval times where you see the little princesses with the cone shaped.
Yeah.
They're not wide brimmed, but they're cone shaped and they have like little fluff on the end.
No, I know
that's what I think of when I think of.
I had one of those when I dressed up for Halloween when I was a kid as a princess.
See, I believe that. I mean, to me, that is a princess. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
But something that's as far from princess as you can get is from Mongolia.
Okay.
Back in Mongolia, ancient times, they had a cuckoo, which is called, it's spelled Boqta, but apparently is pronounced cuckoo. And it was a hat of Mongolian warrior queens.
Oh.
Is that not the coolest thing?
Warrior
because
queen.
I guess women fought back then in Mongolian times. I
like that title.
I love that. And it also had a special role because women and men both fought and were equal. They wore the same type of clothes. You don't want to wear, you can't go into battle with a dress on. So they wore pants. Everybody wore the same thing. And these cuckoos that they wore help people at a distance see which ones were male and female.
Oh.
Isn't that fascinating?
That's interesting.
Yeah. And then Marco Polo, which you loved that series. I haven't watched it yet. The whole Marco Polo series.
I don't know how like true to history it is, but it is an interesting series because
I would think it would try to follow. I mean,
actually reading like Marco Polo's journeys versus the Netflix show that we're talking about.
Not really close.
It's okay, but it's not, I don't know.
Well, supposedly he brought back some of these Mongolian warrior queen hats back from his travel, and it just, everybody had to have one.
Wow.
So all these women there was this sudden boom in popularity of this cone-shaped headwear amongst the ladies.
Wow.
Which is cool.
In Germany, golden conical hats were found decorated with suns and stars, which
like
is
wizard hat.
Yeah, and kind of goes back to like, I don't know. When growing up, I dressed up as wizards and stuff, and so did my sisters and like siblings. And I remember,
you were weird.
Yeah, my oldest sister though, I think it was my oldest sister. You remember the hat from like Minnie Mouse, where
I was just about to say I remember that. What is that Mickey Mouse, the magic one? I remember that.
Yeah,
that one. And it was music and
he had like a red robe and white gloves on or something like that. And I remember my sister dressed up as like a wizard and like a hat similar like that. And that's what this like with like the golden, like decorated with suns. That's what I think about.
So this was Germany?
Yes, Germany.
Yeah, Germany. Okay.
And they really look like the popular witch hats. And some scholars believe that these hats were worn by priests or sorcerers, shamans as like ritual headgear. And so in the Bronze Age, conical hats. So maybe in the Bronze Age, conical hats were worn by some priests and sorcerers and sorceresses.
Interesting. I think that really where the modern day connotation comes from of witches and their hats is from the media. The Wizard of Oz was so that book was written in 1900. And he characterized in his book, who wrote that? Somebody, it was Baum, Baum was his last name. I can't remember his first name. Eric, maybe. Anyway, he wrote about the witches having these conical shaped hats. The Wicked Witch of the West. But it wasn't until that movie came out that we all visualized, The Wizard of Oz is a true classic. I love how it starts with the black and white in Kansas, and it goes to this mystical world in color. And, that witch, she scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. Did you ever watch it when you were a kid?
Yeah, but it didn't bother me.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I'm also like mentally twisted. So I probably had seen something worse than that before and was like, that's not scary.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that. But did you know, actually, I have a did you know? The Wizard of Oz was the first movie to make a witch green.
Really?
Yes, and that's so important because it demonstrates how influential this movie was. Because now when you think of witches, when they do the stereotypical witches with the warts and all that, they're green.
Yeah, they're green and they got the big nose and
But it was the movie, the adaptation of the 1900 book that first made witches green. That's just crazy.
Did you actually know that Wizard of Oz was like deemed like banned or like not banned but like
no,
canceled is kind of like the terms that like my generation uses
because of
a lot of like background problems. So like the actors themselves were awful people.
Really?
I'm not going to speak on it like a lot because I don't have like full facts. I know I've heard of stories of like them not letting the main actress, like they had to work back to back.
Julie Garwood?
Garland.
That's it.
They had to work back to back, so none of them got, like, she didn't get sleep, and something about like one of the characters being like harassing, like
which I can see that. I mean, when did it come out? 39-ish?
Yeah, 1939.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so back then women weren't we're still not respected sometimes, and I hate that for the guys that are listening, but I think the men that are listening understand the women's plight, especially if they're witches, because anyway, they understand. Mm-hmm. I think. Yeah.
That's just what I heard.
Interesting.
But also in media, while we're on media, the Professor McGonagall from Harry Potter, like in the story includes that sorting hat.
Oh, that sorting hat.
Yeah, which is like the main like thing in the first movie where they all get sorted into their house.
Yeah, that's where the hat's its own character.
Yeah, and I just thought I love the Harry Potter
Me too.
series.
Me too.
Like a lot.
I mean, and Professor McGonagall being a witch, she just looked awesome in that hat. Mm-hmm. You're right.
So it was pretty cool. And then you also have, I love these movies, Gandalf in The Hobbit. He also wears his wizard witch hat, mm-hmm. Powerful trademark of him.
Yeah, that book is super old. I can't remember what year it was.
In the site that I got it from, it says 1937.
Damn,
like
really?
The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings.
That old?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I own those books. I own the whole set of The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit.
No, I
didn't realize they were that old. I was thinking they were like the 50s or something, which is still ancient.
Oh, but yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of another book, did you ever read Discworld by Terry Pratchett?
No.
Granny Weatherwax in that series, she says that she wears the witch hat because, quote, "What's the point of being a witch if no one can tell?" End quote. I love that quote.
I love that quote. I feel like nowadays it's kind of like I don't know, there's still that like negative connotation. So you're wary of who you tell and like who you let know. And so it's like, you don't know.
For sure. You don't see out on the street people wearing witch hats every day.
Yeah.
It's not a New York City fashion thing right now. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Terry Pratchett's Discworld was interesting. You should read those books.
Okay.
So modern connotations. So it has become such a symbol. And I do think that the modern connotation started with the Wizard of Oz, but it's become such a symbol associated with the witch that we can't help but be influenced by it. Mm-hmm. It's a symbol of otherness, a symbol of otherworldly powers, mm-hmm. like masks that help people connect to themselves with powers. The pointy hat also helps yourself delve into that world of otherness. Mm-hmm. It helps you interact with your craft, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to say because in the Wicca community, there's like the Cone of Power, which I know you initially stated before, in the witch's hat, it's actually a very powerful symbol that was used for like a ritual called Cone of Power.
Is that like the Egyptian idea, like the pyramid?
It's similar,
because the pyramid, there is some history with the pyramid shape as being like a cone of power. They thought that it preserved food, that it helped maintain sharpness of razor blades, it improved your health, mm-hmm. it triggered sexual urges. I think that's part of why the Egyptians loved it. Was supposed to be a powerful symbol on its own. It supposedly the pyramid, mm-hmm. which, I mean, honestly, the witch's hat is almost, it doesn't have the hard edges,
Yeah.
but it is a cone. It's said to have the special property of deflecting any type of cosmic radiations that fall on its apex. And it goes down through its base. It takes it away from you if you're wearing a hat. It, if it's coming down at you, this conical shape takes it away from you.
Yeah.
If you can envision it, people can't see this, but I'm sitting here pantomiming.
No,
sorry, you guys.
That's interesting because there's a lot of course, I could talk to you like multiple episodes worth of like theories on the Egyptian pyramids, but I personally, after the research that I've done and everything, no aliens involved, no. But
I like the alien idea.
I do believe that aliens exist. We aren't the only things in this universe, right?
Okay.
But I don't believe that they had help, like the Egyptians had help, because we have furthered our knowledge. So why couldn't they have furthered their knowledge?
Look at how far we've come in computers just from the time the original computer came out to where we are now.
I know.
We're walking around basically with our cell phones as walking computers.
Yeah. And that's kind of scary because I think, this is my personal opinion, you don't have to agree with it. Naturally, we shouldn't have gone towards technology the way that we have, because we are very dependent on the technology. Technology isn't natural. And why do you think we don't have any type of like, again, like art or like archaeological artifacts that show us how many past civilizations had thrived? It's because they worked with nature and everything was biodegradable.
This is why I believe that witchcraft is becoming more and more, and I hate to say popular. It is resurging because I think, like you said, we have, as a society, as humanity, has embraced this technological side. And I think to balance that, there are a lot more witches coming out today than there ever have been. And I feel like that is the counterpart. I'm not saying, I have a cell phone, of course. I use computers, of course. Yeah. But like you said, there is a danger to forgetting where we came from. And I think that's
very important.
I think that's why there are so many more witches now. Number one, we don't have to risk being burned at the stake and hung, which
right
is a good
now.
Thing. Right now. But I also think that it's resurging because there is an importance to maintaining that natural end of things, which is technology is going in the other direction. So we have to have this balance. And I think witches are the balance.
Yeah, but I don't know if we have enough to balance it out. Anyway, so what I was trying to say, sorry.
We went way down a rabbit hole on that one.
Personally, I think that the pyramids were more than just a tomb for the pharaohs. Like, I think that they were used more based on like energy to create like not electricity like how we have today, but a sort of energy producing object. And that's why they had like, they didn't just have three. They had 3 larger ones, but they had pyramids all across
everywhere,
where they were. And I think that they all connected somehow. And
supposedly, it has something to do with the magnetic field also of the earth.
And I could also talk to you for a long time on that too, because I've researched that so much that I could sit here and just spit like facts and like information at you of how the world is more than what we today know. We have manipulated the world on a level that is not
and
proper.
we've gotten so, what is the word? Egotistical.
Yeah.
That we have forgotten that, okay, yes, we have used what we have to advance ourselves, but you've got to not forget the other energies that are out there.
How we're going right now is we're forgetting everything that we've had before,
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, necessarily it's bad, but it depends on how you look at it and how we use it. It depends on how we use this technology, and the way we're using it now is a no-no.
I agree. I feel like we need to have, witches aren't even considered a real thing in today's world, but I feel like we're going to become more and more important as the world goes more and more into this technological. I think it's going to be important in the future. We'll have to see.
It's hard because you still have a whole ton of people that are, what is the word that I'm looking for that is not insulting? Close-minded, I'll say.
Close-minded. That's a good way to put it.
And they are scared of what they don't know. And a lot of people are, I'm not going to say uneducated. They are, what is the word I'm looking for? They're not educated properly. The information that they have and have retained is incorrect.
Yes.
And so this is another reason why I'm taking this history.
It's not that they're dumb.
No,
it's that they're
ill-informed.
Yes. Ill-informed is a better word than ignorant. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I bet you, and we are way off topic, but I bet you can sit down with somebody who calls themselves a Christian today and lay out everything that you know from history, because I didn't know these things before I took these classes, and learning about, because a lot of it is learning religion, and we're learning about the transitions of one religion to the other in certain areas in specific times. And so it's like, you could sit down with somebody and be like, oh, hey, the image of like your apostle, like Jesus that you think is Jesus isn't actually, based on history and based on everything and how you see him and how like he's depicted in mass media is not exactly how he was, like how he actually looked. Right. But they're going to sit there because they've been told and like embedded in their heads that's how they're supposed to look.
That's like that meme. What is the meme where, from one of the Star Wars movies, this woman had the picture on her mantle, and it was, I guess, Darth Vader in his younger years, and how he looks like Jesus. And this woman had him on, and
yeah.
How do I tell my mother that's not Jesus?
I know what you're talking about. Is it TikTok?
I've seen it everywhere.
I think it was a video. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, and so they're not stupid. They're just ill-informed. And so I feel like people are going to get scared because they're ill-informed and closed-minded and not willing to educate themselves on what we call ourselves witches. And then you have all the bad connotations with witches. You have everything. And so then witches are going to be burned at the stake again or whatever.
Humanity in general tries to fit things into boxes that they understand.
Yes, it's all about what people understand, and not everybody is educated on what, like everybody has a different set of knowledge. What you know is not what I know, is not what the other person knows. We might know similar things, but we are not that other person. You know more things than I do, and I know more things than you do on certain topics. And so
that's why we love doing this podcast.
Yes,
we learn from each other. I mean, she blows my mind every day with the stuff that she knows. And I think I blow your mind every day with the stuff that I know. It's just, I love this. I love doing this.
Okay.
Are we going to go back on topic now?
We need to go back on topic, but if you would like to hear more ramblings about this stuff, let us know.
We'll do it for our patrons if y'all want.
But we need like a specific topic to go off of. To be able to start talking about.
Okay. Whatever.
Hats.
Back to hats. I've also heard that the pointy hat stands for the contact with your stellar self, which makes sense. It's pointing up to the skies. It's pointing up to the heavens.
Yeah.
That's where the stars are.
Yeah.
I found a website where this one witch was talking about, this is the only one that I found that was talking about using the witch hat in current times. And she's in the list that we'll post in our list of websites.
Yeah.
So she says that she uses the pointy hat, so to speak, as a helper in her energy work. This is a quote from her. She says, "When I draw down the power of the stars or the moon, the energy flow is more centered into me. And I noticed that the brim of the hat is a helper in trance work. And that it through the shadow that the brim casts on my face," which we haven't talked about shadow work. It's a whole, it's going to be a huge,
we have it on our to-do list.
Yeah. But she said after weeks of using the hat that she noticed that it was something like a trigger, that every time she put on her hat, she got into the right state of mind to cast spells or do her rites or whatever it was that she was doing. She says she also noticed that the spirits react to the hat, like it's a symbol to them as well. She said that the person that wears the hat to them is a spirit worker. They recognize us as spirit workers. And she noticed that negative spirits were more distant to her while she wore the hat, while other spirits were more interested in her when she wore the hat. You know, the Smurfs wore that kind of hat. Do you remember the Smurfs?
Yeah, I remember the Smurfs, but their hats were more saggy.
And they were blue. They weren't green like we kind of take now. That makes me think of a joke.
Okay.
I know. She just rolled her eyes. For those of you that couldn't hear the eye rolling.
Yeah,
in her
the
voice,
rattling in my head. Yeah.
I think so. So what do you call a pig in the desert wearing a witch's hat?
I don't know.
A ham sand witch. She just made a horrible face at me.
How did the Smurfs being not?
Don't know. It reminded me of a joke.
Remind you of pigs in a desert.
The Smurfs are funny, and reminded me of a joke. I don't know. I'm weird. Okay,
pigs in a desert.
And anyway, there is a perceived witchy aesthetic in today's world.
There is. There is
the goth look, which that's actually becoming dated now too.
Well, I mean, there's also the black clothes, but it's more of like, I feel like people are becoming more themselves, if that makes sense. Because I feel like a lot of, and I'm not trying to call out anybody. If you're a boomer, if you're a other gen, like I'm not calling you out. I'm just saying like,
okay, boomer.
Yeah, I'm going to ignore that. Stereotypically, there was a lot of, what's the word? Where you're suppressed. There we go. A lot of suppression in the past, and you couldn't be yourself. You couldn't be openly gay. You couldn't be openly trans. You couldn't be openly
there's
goth
still that issue. I mean, that is not gone by a long shot.
Definitely not. It's better. I feel
better. We're
better.
Moving in slow increments to the
where it's like 2 steps forward, 5 steps back, or something like that.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah.
But I feel like it was more suppressed in like past eras.
I agree.
Where goth and everything, like we say goth and emo, and it's like an expression now. And I feel like that's more prevalent today, not being secluded, because I feel like people feel like they can be themselves nowadays. Like we can be openly witches and talk about this on a podcast without being like hunted down, like
and burned at the stake. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So black clothes, goth. But
I feel like nowadays, like you said, we are more open. So there are pink witches.
Yeah. And I consider myself one of those hippie, like live out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Witches. That's just.
Yeah. I feel like our outer appearance can be a manifestation of who we want to be.
Yeah.
And how we wish the world to understand us.
Yeah.
So, for many, why are you laughing?
Because I have my outer appearance and I look like a basic white girl. Because I usually just wear like sneakers, track shorts, and like a big t-shirt, right? And I just look like everybody else. But what I want to wear, I don't have the funds to buy. I don't have like, I
thought you were going to say you didn't have the guts to wear, but you do. You do have guts. You just don't have the money.
I just don't have the money to support my dreams of how I really would love to express myself. Me, typical outfit, really quick. Like a cute, like little headscarf, right? Bell-bottom pants, jeans, probably, and like a really nice, like open, wide sleeved crop tie in the front shirt, all orange,
like total 70s style, y'all.
Yeah, like that type of shirt, and then like the bandana, or like, well, not bandana, but headscarf, be like orangey.
See, I can't say a word because I have no style. I just wear what's comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, I wear what's comfy right now, and I have goals that I'm trying to work towards of what I want to look like.
I guess that's not true, because I like to wear the pointed pumps. I love pumps, which aren't even a thing anymore.
You wear those open shoulder shirts.
I do like the cold shoulder look.
I like that look. And it can,
I like black a lot.
Yeah, you wear a lot of black.
I do.
I don't know. I'm caught between.
Not on purpose. I like how it looks.
Yeah, it's just how you look. I'm caught between wanting to look like a hippie and between looking like really classy and elegant. Like, I need to merge those.
I feel like for that reason, we should be embracing this witch's hat. You know, it bold fashion statement, obviously. I mean, it's not quite the thing now, but I do feel like let's claim ourselves. Let's claim our titles as witches. Let's embrace it. I don't know. If you do have a witch's hat, you could consider decorating it. You know, like, for example, if you have a strong connotation to air, you can add feathers or bird charms or ribbons. You know, I mean, just, you could decorate your own witch's hat to make it special to you.
Yeah.
You know, and our crown chakra is at the top of our head. So, you know, and that there may be something to that pyramid shape.
Exactly.
You know, it could give energy to our crown chakra. I have, I'm done with my drink. Knocked it across the table. So did you know there is actually a world record for the number of people dressing up as a witch at one time?
What?
Who knew? I know. So dressing up as a witch, it's one of the most popular costumes every Halloween. And the Guinness Book of World Records has the, quote, largest gathering of people dressed as witches at one time. It was 1,607 costumed participants that got together on November 16th of 2013.
No way. Where were we?
It was in Spain. So we weren't over there.
No, we weren't in Spain.
2013, we were a lot younger. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. There's actually like alternatives to witches' hats, which I thought was very interesting, because other possibilities to a witch's hat may they go back to antiquity that I was talking about. Like antiquity is like a general term that we use for what
the olden days,
like the olden days, like 300 AD. 60,
ancient times,
very long ago. So ancient. Oh geez, how do I
Etruscan.
Etruscan. I don't think that's how you say it. I have learned how to say it, but I cannot remember
you
right
say
now.
It and you just go with it with confidence.
Yeah.
And you pretend like you said it right. And then your listeners go, what the fuck were you talking about? That's not right.
And then we get angry DMs like, no, you pronounce it this way. And then we end up correcting ourselves next episode. So ancient Etruscan, I think it's Etruscan, coins from the city of Luna have a head on the side, which may represent the goddess Diana, who is
moon goddess.
Who is associated with witches. The head wears a brimless conical hat, like we were like brimless,
right, without the wide brim. Okay.
And most contemporary witches go bareheaded or wear ritual headbands like headwear, such as headbands with like crescent moons or other religious symbols, like on the forehead. So like kind of right, like
I
right
actually
where
bought
the eye is.
at Dragon Con. I bought a, what do you call it? A thing that goes on my forehead that I can use to feel witchy.
Like a pendant type thing?
Well, yeah, but on my head. It goes right. It's like a tiara, except for it's lower, and it has it was red and silver, and it has this red gem that hangs down on my forehead, and it connected with me when I saw it, and I had to have it. So my husband bought it for me.
Aw, that's sweet.
Mm-hmm. He's just accepted that I'm weird, and we go with it.
In the rituals in which the goddess and horned god are represented, the high priestess may wear a headband crown, and the high priest a helmet with horns and antlers. Because I also read somewhere that the horns were seen as a very sacred, like a symbol, a really important symbol.
I feel like that's also why the church would hate it, because horns are connotated with the devil.
Like, yeah,
even though it's not.
Yeah.
I kind of want a witch hat. Speaking of Dragon Con, when we were there, I saw these gorgeous hats. They were beautiful, but they were like $350 to $500, and my husband said no.
Oh, my heart said no on that one.
My heart said yes, but my husband said no. Most witches in today's world just kind of see it as decorative way to honor the history of witchcraft rather than anything super usable in our actual craft today.
Yeah. To me, there is power in something if you believe it, right? And I know that's like, it's the power of intent.
Right.
You know?
Which is witchcraft, honestly.
So if wearing a witch's hat or any type of hat or anything, a robe, anything makes you feel more powerful, more in tune with your magic. And I mean, that's important. If there is something that you feel makes you feel more in tune with your magic, go for it. Don't, it's not weird, like, unless if it's something illegal, but that's another discussion for later.
And then there's privacy of your own home.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah. So it's like, if you want to wear a witch's hat or a I don't know. I was going to say something, a beignet is not there.
Oh, we like to eat beignets.
But you're not going to put a beignet on your head.
Get powdered sugar everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, would you want to wear a hat during your practice of magic?
I don't know. I feel like it would depend. It would have to be a hat that felt special to me. Something that's
it would have to
speak
to you.
Yes.
Yeah. I think I might want to try it. I mean, I did love those hats at Dragon Con. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like the way I would use it, because you're going to laugh, because this is me.
Yeah.
I would use it to help carry my spell components to the altar.
Oh,
flip it upside down. I could put my candles in it, my herbs in it, and carry it over to the altar. No. I mean, maybe because it's kind of like putting like the herbs to make you smell better in it, Well, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I do have to tell you, there was one year that I made something from one of my kids' Halloween classes. I made Halloween hats. They were chocolate Halloween, chocolate witch hats, actually. So you take this pointed, those pointed ice cream cones, the little chocolate ones. They're pointed.
Yes.
They look just like witches' hats if you turn them upside down. I mean, usually you have them right side up and you put the ice cream on top. But if you turn them upside down, they are like a pointed witch's hat. And I use the little mini chocolate ones. And then if you melt chocolate in the microwave, like you could use semi-sweet chocolate chips or milk chocolate chip. You could do butterscotch chocolate chip, whatever strikes your fancy. So you melt those, and then you turn the hat upside down. Well, you turn it so the cone point is up, and you drip the chocolate all over the hat. And you toss sprinkles on it to stick to the chocolate, and you can toss those little mini M&Ms on it. And then you wait for it to dry, and my mouth is watering. This is terrible. And you use chocolate syrup kind of as glue, and you put it on top of a cookie, which is the wide brim of the hat. And I mean, I like to make the chocolate chip cookies, but you could use any flavor cookie you want. And voila, you've got a witch hat.
That's
you could
cute.
also use frosting if you want to actually have it be like something for the children to make during class for one of their parties. You could have them decorate their own witch's hat, and you could use frosting instead of the melted chocolate, which might be a little bit cleaner. These children are crazy. And then there's lots of little Halloween candies, like little pumpkin sprinkles and stuff that you could put on them.
I was going to say, if I could eat it, I want it.
I mean, it makes me think that we need to come up with a cocktail of some kind that goes with that flavor. Yeah, I think so too. So where can you buy a witch's hat if you are so inclined?
Everywhere.
Amazon. I mean, really, Amazon. I left because she at me last week. So
you left
Amazon.com.
on
But Etsy, for real, there are so many cute ones.
Yeah.
I actually saw a baseball cap that just said witch on it. I was like, there's a witch's hat.
Yeah.
I love it. But like this one place on Etsy, it's called the number one by BY, the number one US at Etsy, had an adorable curly one. You know me, I like the Zen tangle and that kind of thing. It was an adorable curly one. She actually had really cool fingernails. I did my fingernails today in black for Halloween. And she had these really cool face masks and face shields.
Oh,
she had this one where, you put on your regular, you buy the disposable face masks, and there was this thing that went over top of it, and it had this fang skull thing. Anyway, you should go check her out.
Oh.
We'll have to post her link in our thingy.
It's non-sponsored, by the way.
Oh yeah, not sponsored. I mean, I wish. I wish. Sponsors.
Yeah,
but I just loved her stuff. And of course, like Dragon Craft Creations, we can't leave them out because they do a lot of our merch and stuff. And we are expanding into other areas. We've come up with. We got some samples. And there's one that is an adorable coffee mug that we might do as a giveaway.
Yes. So we are so excited. We just got to figure out how to do a giveaway first, and then we'll do it.
Yep. So somebody could win that coffee mug. It's really adorable. We'll have to post pictures on Instagram.
Yeah.
But that's all I've got. Do you have anything more?
That's all I've got on hats. The tragic background and
crazy. It's not the happy, fluffy thing I expected it to be.
No, not at all. But I want to give a shout out because we have a new patron. Their name is Kate. And I am so excited because now that makes us brings us up to 2 patrons. And I am so excited. Yes. And I'm not ashamed. I'm just going to say go and subscribe on Patreon because anything helps. I think we forget to say this. You guys can sign up on Patreon. Yes. You guys can sign up on Patreon just for $1 to get our content. Anything
helps, you guys.
So you guys can just join us for 1 month if you want for $1 or whatever. And we have extra bonus episodes that we're working on. We have exclusive, our own recipes that we've had in our generations, for a long time that we are sharing with you guys, because I feel like part of me being a witch is cooking. I love cooking so much, and that to me is spellcraft in itself, to making something amazing and delicious, and you put your own energy and power into making something. So we're sharing those with you, and I even updated our little blurb because we are now calling everybody who our patrons are a part of our coven, because you guys are more to us than just listeners. You guys are a part of our family. You are our coven. And I just think that is so awesome.
Me too. Thank you guys so much.
Yes. But you guys can also find us on all social media That's TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Instagram is right now our main platform at C3 Witchy Podcast. And you can also go to www.c3witchypodcast.com. There you will find links to our merch, our Patreon. I keep mixing up the words, Patreon, patron.
I know.
I don't think I'll ever get used to saying that, like those words together. And you can also, I added a new tab for our newsletter because we have a newsletter that comes out every
month. And
we've
had like 3 episodes, but we've decided to finally put it on our blog, so you all can go find it there.
Yes. And I have been adding to our blog recently. You can find our blog at our website too, because I feel like we forget to mention that as well. But I have been updating our blog where I did my simmer pot that I talked about. I can't remember if I talked about it on the bonus episode or not, but I did do a simmer pot. It was lovely.
And for our patrons, those of you who haven't seen, I think you all get notified when we put stuff on our Patreon, but she put a whole bunch of stuff on the Patreon. So go check out that.
Yes, I am so excited. And we are working harder and more diligently on everything for our podcast because we want it to be the best for you guys. And if you guys have any critiques, please let us know.
Please let us know.
Email us. Our email is c3riverandwren@gmail.com. And you can also please go review us on Apple Podcasts and iTunes because that is a big help to us as well.
Definitely.
So,
all right.
Yeah, that's all that I have.
So
and we'll be back.
We'll be back next week. Can't wait to see to talk to you guys.
This
I know
is why we have "we'll be back," so we don't say "we'll see you later."
I know I screwed up. Whatever. We just love y'all. We'll talk to you next week.
Yes. Bye.
All right. Bye.